To discuss all, Betsy Woodruff, a political reporter for the Daily Beast, good enough to join us now from Washington. And Betsy, certainly a curious choice of words there from Kellyanne Conway, given the news of the past week. What did you make, not just of the overall message sent to the party, but let's be very frank here, the way in which the message was delivered?
They clearly have that word on the brain over in Trump Tower. I mean, the reality is it's a term that a lot of people, particularly evangelical Christians who Kelly Conway has close and deep ties with, don't particularly appreciate, especially in public discourse. The fact that she's now using it, seeming to normalize it, I imagine they hope will have the effect of making the audio from years ago that Donald Trump said sound a little bit less weird on people's ears. I don't think it's going to work. That said, I think it's interesting that Conway criticized Republicans, including Paul Ryan, for being wishy-washy, because in Paul Ryan's case, Trump himself was actually quite wishy-washy. At first, he sort of played footsie with Paul Ryan's far-right primary challenger, Paul Nealon. Then he supported Ryan. Now he's coming out saying he thinks Paul Ryan is terrible. It's very much sort of a parallel vacillation on Trump's part. The relationship between Paul Ryan and Donald Trump is super weird and inconsistent, and it's a two-way street there.
Is it your sense that Donald Trump truly believes it at this point, that he doesn't need GOP leadership to win in November?
My guess would be that he does. Yeah, look, the reality is that he was up against almost the entire Republican Party establishment political machine over the primary. He was extremely successful, as we know, obviously, and now I think he probably has a sense that he goes to these rallies and he hears from supporters and he walks outside Trump Tower on the worst day of his campaign, and there's a joyous mob there celebrating him. I think on a psychological level, it's very easy to think, why do I need these nerds over at the RNC when I can get thousands of people to show up at an event in Florida?
Meanwhile, the Trump campaign out with another new attack ad this morning. I want to give you a look and listen, get your thoughts on the other side.
The Clintons. From dead broke to worth hundreds of millions. So how did Hillary end up filthy rich? Pay-to-play politics. Staggering amounts of cash poured into the Clinton Foundation from criminals, dictators, countries that hate America. Hillary cut deals for donors, sold out American workers, exploited Haitians in need. She even handed over American uranium rights to the Russians. Hillary Clinton only cares about power, money, and herself.
No lines to read between are necessarily required, I suppose, there, Betsy. And meanwhile, you look at some of the emails uncovered in the hack of John Podesta's emails in the WikiLeaks dumps. They seem to a degree, reinforce this narrative the Trump campaign is now pushing. However, in what would perhaps in any other election cycle be a really bad week for the Democratic nominee, perhaps this would qualify as the October surprise. Is it just not going to find any traction given the travails of Donald Trump?
You know, I think it's a question of time, and it's a question of Trump's ability to change the narrative here. And this is why having the RNC on board with him and having a functional relationship with Paul Ryan would be so helpful. Because when you're in the middle of a campaign and you have this situation that's basically a gift from God, right? These Podesta email leaks are fantastic for the Trump campaign. If you don't have a well-organized army of surrogates and supporters who can go on cable news, who can write op-eds, who can publicly push that story and kind of change the focus, then it's tough to take the focus off of your own problems. If Trump and Paul Ryan were working together better, it would be easier for him to drive this message home. But instead, he's having to divide his resources between going after Hillary Clinton, parsing the Podesta emails, and figuring out whether he's going to try to torch Paul Ryan or make nice or who knows what. It's just an inefficient use of his time this close to Election Day that he's simultaneously trying to infight and fight Hillary Clinton.
Well, and so as Hillary Clinton hits the trail this week, making rather policy-specific appearances from what we are told, perhaps trying to really show what a Clinton presidency would look like. Obviously, we're seeing the scorched earth from the Trump campaign. Is there an endgame strategy here for Donald Trump?
That's a good question. The end game obviously depends on how the election goes. I mean, it's interesting because a lot of his staffers are poised to be in very lucrative and influential positions if Hillary Clinton wins. For instance, we've got a story today about David Bossie, who's Trump's deputy campaign manager. He's dedicated his career to going after Hillary Clinton with minimal success. And if Trump ends up losing, then Bossie is going to be positioned to present himself as one of the leading Hillary Clinton antagonists and use that Trump credibility party to raise lots and lots of money through direct mail off of conservative and Tea Party donors. So it's kind of a win-win for Trump's staff, regardless of the outcome in November. Of course, the challenge for Trump of, trying to be policy heavy while also going after Hillary Clinton, while also going after Paul Ryan, is not something he's proven uniquely successful at thus far. But we've got 27 days to go. Anything could happen. So,
Okay.
just sit back and see what happens.
So that's Trump's staff. How about Trump's party, such as it is? I mean, it comes, again, USA Today today says essentially 1/4 of all GOP governors and lawmakers will not be endorsing their own nominee. That number actually rather reflects the number of likely GOP voters. Donald Trump needs that number in the mid-90s. It's hovering in the mid-70s. What then to make of the GOP come November 9th?
I think there is an existential problem, a fundamental rift within the GOP between party leaders, influential big money types who are really invested in comprehensive immigration reform and increasing foreign trade, lowering trade barriers, between that sector of the party and the Trump sector of the party that's sort of doggedly devoted to deporting undocumented immigrants, building a wall, drastically limiting legal immigration levels, and also limiting foreign trade. Those two camps are not going to be able to compromise. Neither of them are going to be able to make deals with each other or agree to disagree on these issues that are really essential for both of them and upon which they're both diametrically opposed. I think whether Trump's in the picture or not, that's a massive, and I think, at least for the short term, permanent rift that's going to be really hard to resolve. And one thing I'm curious about is how Republicans look at those issues and talk about those issues, regardless of who's president, in the wake of November 8th.
Yeah, as Susan Page of the USA Today told me today, the Civil War was always coming in the party. It just got here a month early. The Daily Beast, Betsy Woodruff, as always, we appreciate the time.
Sure thing.